Good morning, Emporia High staff. I have went ahead and shared this Google Slides presentation with you, and I would like you to highlight some of the key information because you will be talking about this when we split up into our departments. So I'd like you to highlight those key points in meaningful assessments. Leadership matters. Whenever we are doing anything, you always have to have a leader. So create that right environment. Make sure that it's inclusive. Support and develop teacher quality. You should always be looking to develop professionally and implement those meaningful assessments and use your resources. Work together, reach out to others, and you should be able to improve your teaching. Lifelong learning skills. Assessment and evaluation go into those learning skills that we will use for life. So assessment is feedbacks on action for evaluating learning outcomes, and it really pertains to if the standard was met. Evaluation is more of, I'm going to tell you what your strengths are and where you can have room to improve. So there's a little definition for you when it comes to assessments. Summative versus formative. This is two terms that you've all used and know, but summative is comprehensive. It kind of shows you the patterns of a student and how they're progressing. There is no incorporation of reflection or growth for those students. It's kind of cut and dry. And then also there's no room for you to modify as a teacher. Formative is over a period of time, and you can do a formative assessment within 10 seconds, asking thumbs up or thumbs down, thumbs in the middle if you understand what topic we're on today. So you can share those strengths and weaknesses, and as a teacher, you can formatively assess your students and decide if what you are doing needs to be repeated or if you're ready to move on as a class. Evaluate the quality of your assessments. I think we sometimes get stuck in our ways of, this is the assessment I've used, it's worked in the past, but we need to reflect as often as we can in what we're doing. We got to use our data. So collecting and reviewing, sometimes we collect, but we don't review or use the data. Relate those standards to your assessments. Be strategic in how you plan. And it just takes attention and time. We've got to really look at our evaluations of the quality. Culturally responsive assessments. We're going to get into how we connect culture to our assessments and how it can benefit our students. Most common assessments are ineffective and destructive for Indigenous students. These are a few types of assessments that we can use. Self-assessment, we can look at our work and see if the students can decide, well, I did well on this, I can reflect, and I did poorly. There's peer assessment. I like this because they get to look at each other's work and give suggestions. Essay questions are a really good place to really incorporate culture, especially in your test. So essays can really give you that connection and critical thinking part of your assessments. And then network learning. This is where you put people into groups, and it can be formal, non-formal, or informal. So here are a couple quotes that really stood out to me in some of the text that I have related to this PowerPoint. Culturally relevant assessments gives insight about the kinds of assessments that lead and front students' cultural strengths and curiosities and nurture and extend literacies. Understand students are more likely to be low income, first generation, and there are vast differences in needs for LGBTQIA. We have to know our students so we can give them the best education that pertains to them and tailor it to our students. Culturally relevant assessments are fundamental to their learning. It is important to collaborate with families and students to build rubrics. This really gets people involved and gives them a sense of pride in what they're doing. It's good to send questionnaires home and learn about their culture, learn about things that they're doing. really work with those other teachers and get to know your students. As a high school, our kids travel to 5 different classes, and it's good to know how they're doing in other classes so you can connect that culture to what you're doing. Successful assessments. We need to provide diagnosis feedback. We need to use our assessments to help set standards. We need to decide if we can move on or if we need to repeat some of the processes that we have been doing. Successful assessments evaluate the progress of your students, and it also motivates them. So if they see that they are scoring highly, that's good motivation. Also, if they're scoring poorly, they know that they have room for improvement, and it also gives you the chance to repeat some of those topics and standards for them. It holds them accountable, and it should help you with planning for the future if you can see how well your students did on their assessments. How can we improve? We've got to collect that data, like I said, and evidence that the outcomes were met. We need meaningful assessments that connect us to our classrooms. We need to take an active role in developing them. Real world application and critical thinking is very key and important because we see that these students are having trouble with word problems and using their critical thinking. So this would really be a meaningful assessment by giving real world application. Well-being. We know that social emotional is super important in all of our students. How are they doing in life? What do they do in their free time? Do they have good relationships with all the people in their life? How does this relate to the scores? If you have a positive relationship between students and teachers, they're probably going to have higher scores. When they have that negative relationship, it tends to lower their scores. They have low morale. They have low motivation. They need to have a sense of belonging, and their test perception plays a big role in how they score on their assessments in your classroom. So if they perceive your test as stressful and have anxiety, then their test scores will be poor. So you need to give them kind of a ease of mind that it's going to be okay and that they need to just relax and take that test and read every question carefully. Parent involvement and motivation level really connects to relationships to the scores of well-being and the data. So what does this all mean to us? All students matter. Their culture matters. Everything that we can learn about them can really connect to their assessment scores and to their learning and to their everyday life. Adjustment is key. We must know that we have to continually reflect on our practices and really focus on improving our students' grades in our class, along with their skills as a human being, such as communication or working with other students. And then last but not least, I think this has been kind of a connection through all of the slides that I've been over, but meaningful assessments provide improved learning. We have to have a reason behind our assessments, and we have to be able to connect those to real life and critical thinking so that our students can apply that in the future. Thank you all for listening. You will take this shared document, and in our next breakout session, you will be talking with your team members about what you found really useful within this text and how you're going to improve your assessments in your department.